In the vast emptiness of the Zephyr star system, a crowded station known as Celestis Orbital floated silently. A hub for traders, diplomats, and explorers from countless worlds. Amid the steady hum of engines and flickering lights, whispers traveled faster than the fastest ship, and none was louder than those about Captain Ilara Voss. Once a respected officer, Laura had changed since the sudden disappearance of her husband, Commander Rian Voss, who vanished without a trace during a high-profile diplomatic mission to the neighboring system of Lyra. Some called her grief-stricken, others said she had lost her mind entirely, claiming she talked to shadows and warned of dangers no one else could see. The official reports called it an accident, one of the many risks faced in space. But those who had known Rian suspected something more sinister. Alara's colleagues, however, dismissed her growing fears as the ramblings of a mad widow clinging to lost hope. They said she was obsessed, that her warnings of a looming threat were baseless and distracting from real work. Despite the cold shoulder and subtle threats to her reputation, Lara's eyes remained sharp, scanning every new piece of information for clues. It was clear to anyone who looked that something haunted her, a secret no one else wanted to admit. Into this swirling storm of doubt and fear stepped Lieutenant Mark Trent, a human explorer fresh from Earth and assigned to Celestis Orbital to help improve relations between species. Mark was young but quick-minded, the natural curiosity that made him different from many others who arrived at the station. He listened more than he talked and observed more than he judged. From the moment he met Alara, something about her desperate intensity caught his attention. While the others treated her with quiet contempt or polite avoidance, Mark saw a woman fighting against invisible forces, a spark of truth behind the walls of pain and frustration. He noticed how she kept returning to the same datasets, how she studied the strange signal patterns recorded just before Rian's mission went dark, and how she refused to give up despite the warnings to step away. Her determination was not madness. It was courage masked in sorrow. Their first meeting was tense but electric. Alara, wary and tired, barely spoke to anyone except in urgent commands or biting retorts. Yet when Mark approached her with a calm voice and genuine respect, she hesitated. She shared fragments of her story, how her husband had sent her strange messages, coded warnings, and fragmented clues before losing contact. The signals hinted at something lurking beyond the usual space routes, a shadow in the light of known stars. Others called it paranoia. But Mark, with no ties to the political games or fear of scandal, felt compelled to dig deeper. He asked questions others wouldn't. Why did these signals matter? What could be hidden in the gaps between transmissions? And most importantly, why had no one else taken them seriously? As days passed, Mark spent more time with Alara, piecing together scattered evidence and revisiting reports filed away and ignored. He saw the toll it took on her sleepless nights, whispered conversations with herself, moments of quiet reflection broken by sudden bursts of energy and resolve. Yet beneath the fatigue was a fierce intelligence, a mind unwilling to accept easy answers or blind rejection. Alara showed Mark the data her husband had left behind, encrypted and fragmented with patterns that hinted at a presence moving just out of reach. The more they studied, the more clear it became that something or someone was interfering with communications, with travel, even with the delicate peace the station maintained among diverse alien species. The station officials grew impatient. They warned Mark against getting involved, suggesting that he was wasting his time chasing ghosts alongside a woman they called unstable. Yet the more they pushed him away, the stronger his resolve grew. Mark began to understand that dismissing Ilara as mad was a convenient way to ignore uncomfortable truths. It kept people safe from fear and political fallout, but it left the real danger unchecked. He began to wonder if humanity's curiosity and refusal to accept easy lies might be the only hope in a system filled with silence and secrets. Alara confided to Mark that she watched subtle signs that someone or something was tracking her movements, trying to keep her quiet. Messages she once trusted became corrupted. Allies turned distant, and the station's usual hum was pierced by unexplainable malfunctions. Yet even as pressure mounted to stop asking questions, Ilara's belief in the truth only deepened. She spoke of Rian not just as a lost husband, but as a man who had uncovered something dangerous and paid the price for it. Mark listened and knew this was more than grief. It was a call for justice and understanding. Together, they began to map the strange signals to an uncharted area near the edge of the star system, a dark zone where ships rarely ventured. Instruments picked up nothing but static and fleeting shadows. The question wasn't just what was hiding there, but why it remained hidden. Was it a new alien force? A long-forgotten technology? Or something that no one yet understood? Every clues seemed to open more questions, and the station's dismissive attitude only made Mark more determined. This was a puzzle that demanded attention, not silence. Late one night, in the dim glow of data screens and the soft hum of the station's life support, Mark confronted Ilara about the risks she was taking. "Why do you keep fighting when everyone calls you mad?" he asked quietly. Her eyes held a mixture of pain and fire as she replied, "Because if I stop, no one else will, and the truth will die with us." It was a moment that changed everything for Mark. He realized this was not just a search for answers, but a battle for hope in a universe that often turned its back on those who dared to speak out. As the days blurred into nights, the station buzzed with routine and rumors, but Mark and Ilara prepared quietly for what lay ahead. They knew the path would be dangerous and uncertain, and that many would try to stop them. Yet armed with the truth buried beneath layers of doubt and fear, they were ready to face whatever shadow haunted the stars, because sometimes the voice of a mad widow is the only light strong enough to pierce the darkness. After their first meeting, Mark found himself drawn deeper into Ilara's world, a place filled with fragmented data, unanswered questions, and whispered warnings that most had chosen to ignore. The strange signals Ilara had intercepted before her husband's disappearance were unlike anything officially reported. Were subtle, hidden beneath layers of static and noise, but when examined carefully, a pattern emerged. These were not random disturbances or natural phenomena. They carried a message, or at least a signature, something alive and purposeful lurking just beyond the edge of known space. Ilara had spent months trying to decode them alone, but now with Mark's fresh perspective and human curiosity, they began to see connections others had missed. Night after night, they pored over star charts, communication logs, and sensor readings in the quiet corners of the station's data archives. Each clue led them closer to a dark truth. There was an alien faction operating in the shadows, manipulating events across systems to sow discord and confusion. This faction was not just interfering with transmissions. They were controlling key points in the network, blocking vital information and sabotaging diplomatic efforts. Ilara's husband, it seemed, had stumbled upon their activity and paid a heavy price for it. But the station officials refused to acknowledge any of this. They dismissed the signals as sensor errors or space weather. They pressured Ilara to stop her investigations, warning her that her obsession endangered her career and the fragile peace between species. Mark, however, could not turn away. His human determination made him stubborn and fearless in the face of bureaucracy and danger. He pushed back against the silence, questioning officers and technicians who quietly admitted they had seen anomalies but feared speaking out. Together, Mark and Ilara followed the trail of altered data streams to forbidden sectors regions. Marked as off-limits because of past conflicts or unknown hazards, the station's warnings became threats, and the political tension around their inquiry grew. Yet, the more they uncovered, the clearer it became that the alien faction was far more powerful and secretive than anyone had imagined. It operated, through deception, using advanced technology to cloak its presence and influence key players across the system. Sometimes their signals would flicker across the network like a ghost, disappearing when sensors tried to focus on them. The signs suggested this faction was testing the station's defenses, probing for weaknesses, and preparing for something larger. Ilara shared with Mark the memories of her husband's last transmissions. Frantic, coded, filled with warnings about an approaching darkness. These were not just technical problems. They hinted at a threat that could unravel the fragile peace the station worked so hard to maintain. Mark could see the weight of loss in Alara's eyes, but he also saw her strength. Together, they were no longer just two individuals, were a team fighting an unseen enemy. Despite the growing danger, Mark's optimism fueled their quest. He believed that humanity's willingness to face uncertainty and seek truth could make a difference. He encouraged Alara to trust in her instincts and to use every resource available, even if it meant bending rules or risking everything. Late one evening, while analyzing encrypted transmissions, they discovered a repeating sequence buried deep within the noise's signature, not matching any known species or technology. The code seemed almost alive, shifting and adapting like a puzzle designed to mislead. This discovery raised the stakes. If the alien faction could manipulate communication networks so easily, what else were they capable of? The station's leaders remained silent, refusing to address the threat openly. Their reluctance only made Mark and Alara more determined to act. They realized they were fighting not only an alien enemy, but also a system unwilling to face harsh truths. As pressure mounted, strange incidents began to happen around them: equipment malfunctions, unauthorized surveillance, and veiled warnings from unknown sources. The station's atmosphere grew tense and uneasy. Some whispered that Alara's madness was contagious, that anyone who questioned the official story risked being branded a threat. But Mark stood by her side, confident that their discoveries were the key to preventing disaster. Together, they planned their next move: to venture closer to the source of the signals, into the forbidden zones where few dared to go. It was a dangerous path, filled with unknown risks and enemies hiding in plain sight. Yet Mark and Alara knew that to protect the future, they had to step beyond the safety of accepted lies and face the shadows threatening to consume them all. The whispered warnings were growing louder now, carried on the edge of every transmission and the silence. Between the stars, and for the first time, Mark understood what it meant to listen, not just with ears, but with courage and hoping to believe in the truth hidden beneath the label of madness, ignoring the mounting pressure and explicit orders to cease their investigation. Mark and Alara knew they had reached a point where waiting meant losing everything. The strange signals, growing stronger and more frequent, pointed to a single source: an ancient, derelict alien vessel drifting just beyond the borders of a hostile nebula known as the Shattered Veil. This nebula was feared by all in the system. Its swirling clouds of gas and radiation made navigation treacherous, and many ships had disappeared without a trace while attempting to pass through. Officially, the area was off limits, declared too dangerous and unstable, but Mark and Alara understood that the real danger was hiding inside the shadows of silence and denial. They secured a small scout ship, one of the few fast and nimble enough to slip past patrols and sensors without drawing attention. The mission was secret and risky, but it was the only way to follow the signals to their source and uncover the truth behind the growing threat. As they set course toward the Shattered Veil, tension hung heavy between them: Lara's grief, sharpened by years of loss and fear, and Mark's steady resolve, fueled by human curiosity and hope. The journey itself was a test of skill and courage. The nebula's swirling gases interfered with instruments, forcing them to rely on instincts and visual scans. Every flicker on the radar could be a sign of the unknown, and every silence a hidden danger. As they pushed through the hazardous clouds, their ship's sensors began to pick up faint echoes, distorted whispers of a presence lurking in the void. Soon, emerging from the hazy gas clouds, they saw it: a massive structure, unlike anything cataloged by any star system. The derelict vessel was enormous, covered in strange symbols and worn by time, drifting silently like a ghost ship. It was clear this was no ordinary wreck. It carried the mark of an intelligence far beyond their understanding. With hearts pounding, Mark and Alara carefully maneuvered closer, the ship's broken hull glowing faintly under the nebula's eerie light. Inside, the airlock was damaged but operable. They entered cautiously, aware that whatever secrets the ship held could be dangerous, even deadly. Inside the corridors, the silence was thick, broken only by their footsteps and the soft hum of their suit's life support. Strange devices and ancient technology lined the walls, some still faintly, pulsing with energy as if waiting for something to awaken them. As they explored deeper, they found logs and recordings fragments of an alien civilization that had thrived long ago, but vanished without clear reason. The messages hinted at conflict, fear, and a desperate attempt to control forces beyond their reach. Mark and Alara soon realized that this ancient intelligence was not gone. It had changed, evolving into something darker and more cunning. The vessel seemed to be a center for a long-hidden plan to undermine peace among the star systems. Using subtle manipulation and fear to weaken alliances and prepare for domination, every step they took brought them closer to understanding. Threat far more serious than anyone had imagined. Yet as they uncovered the ship's secrets, danger followed them. Unseen forces, whether automated defenses or hostile life forms, began to react to their presence. Systems flickered on and off, strange noises echoed through empty halls, and shadowy figures appeared and vanished in the corner of their eyes. The derelict vessel was alive in its own way, protecting its secrets fiercely. Alara's calm under pressure and Mark's quick thinking saved them from several close calls. But the sense of being watched and hunted grew with each passing moment. They knew time was running out not just because of the ship's unstable condition, but because whoever had sent these signals would not want their mission to succeed. Back on Celestis Orbital, their sudden disappearance sparked alarm and suspicion. The station's authorities, already wary of Elara's investigations, increased patrols and surveillance, adding to the danger of discovery if Mark and Elara returned. Yet they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that the truth was crucial for the survival of countless worlds. Their final discovery inside the ship was chilling a transmission from the alien intelligence to unknown recipients, detailing plans to disrupt trade routes, sabotage peace talks, and ignite conflict among star systems. The message was clear. This was not an accident or random violence, but a carefully planned campaign of fear and control. Mark and Alara realized that their own station might be the next target, and that the alien faction had agents hidden among the population, ready to strike at the right moment. With the evidence secured and their mission near its end, they prepared to leave the vessel, but not without a final warning. The ship, as if aware of their departure, sent a pulse that nearly disabled their systems and threatened to trap them forever in the nebula's deadly embrace. Only through quick teamwork and resolve did they escape, leaving the derelict vessel behind, but carrying its dark secrets with them. As they returned to the station, the weight of what they had uncovered settled on them both. They had challenged the silence and risked everything, but the battle was only beginning. The ancient threat was real, hidden in plain sight, and stronger than anyone had dared to believe. Mark and Alara knew their next moves would determine the fate of their people and countless others across the stars. They were no longer just a grieving widow and a curious human explorer. They were the guardians of a truth that could change the galaxy forever, even if it meant facing enemies both alien and familiar. And as the hostile nebula faded behind them, the new determination took hold, to expose the shadows and protect the fragile peace, no matter the cost. Returning to Celestis Orbital after their daring mission near the hostile nebula, Mark and Alara found the station a very different place than when they had left. The alien faction, sensing their discovery and desperate to keep their plans hidden, had tightened their grip. Invisible agents moved like shadows through the corridors, spreading rumors and planting seeds of doubt about Alara's mental state. Official channels branded her as unstable, calling her warnings dangerous distractions that threatened the fragile peace the station upheld. Public meetings questioned her sanity, and many who had once respected her turned their backs unwilling to face the uncomfortable truths she carried.
Ow.
The tension in the air was thick, and trust was in short supply as alliances fractured and suspicions seeped into every corner. But Mark refused to be silenced. With the evidence they had gathered from the derelict vessel encrypted logs, alien transmissions, and proof of the conspiracy, he took a stand. In meetings packed with diplomats, military officers, and representatives of various species, Mark presented the facts with clarity and calm determination. His human perspective, free from political bias, helped him speak in a way that reached even the most skeptical ears. Slowly, he began to rally a coalition of allies who were willing to listen, who understood that ignoring the threat would only lead to chaos. Together, they uncovered the deeper layers of the conspiracy. The alien faction was not just a rogue group, but an ancient intelligence that had survived through manipulation and fear. Their goal was to weaken the unity of the star systems, to exploit differences and ignite conflicts that would allow them to rise in power once again. The truth explained why Alara's husband had been targeted. Rian had discovered the faction's plans and tried to warn others, making him a threat to their carefully constructed web of deception. His disappearance was not an accident, but a calculated move to silence him forever. Yet in his final messages and the clues he left behind, Rian had unknowingly handed humanity and its allies a key to resistance. Mark realized that humanity's unique adaptability and deep empathy, the ability to connect across differences and innovate under pressure, were vital assets against the alien faction's cold strategy. Unlike other species that relied on rigid hierarchies or isolation, humans could bridge gaps, inspire cooperation, and think beyond traditional limits. This gave them a chance not only to survive, but to lead in the fight for peace. As Mark and Alara worked to build this fragile alliance, they faced constant threats. Communications were hacked, allies vanished mysteriously, and trusted contacts turned traitor under unseen influence. The alien faction's agents sowed distrust and chaos, hoping to break the coalition before it could take action. Despite these dangers, Mark's belief in the power of truth and empathy never wavered. He encouraged Alara to speak openly, to share her story not as a grieving widow, but as a guardian of hope and justice. Their public appearances became rallies for courage, reminding everyone that the strength of a community lay in facing fears. Together, slowly, the tide began to turn. More voices joined the call to expose the alien faction's plans and protect the star systems from division and destruction. The station that had once dismissed Alara's warnings now became a battleground for ideas and determination. And in the heart of it all stood a human and a widow, bound by loss but united by purpose, ready to face whatever came next with unwavering resolve. They understood that the coming crisis was not just a battle of weapons or technology, but a test of trust, resilience, and the very spirit of cooperation. Their story was far from over, but with truth revealed and allies gathered, hope burned. Brighter than ever in the darkness, with the alliance now stronger and more determined than ever, Mark and Alara found themselves at the center of a bold plan to strike back against the alien faction. Shadows had darkened so many lives across the star systems. They had spent months gathering allies from different species, bringing unique skills and perspectives, but it was the human qualities of resilience, creativity, and compassion that bound them all together in a powerful force. This was not a battle of sheer firepower or overwhelming technology. It was a fight to protect the fragile trust that held the galaxy together. The alien faction had tried to divide and conquer, using fear and deception to shatter alliances, but Mark and Alara believed that unity and understanding could overcome even the most cunning threats. Their plan was daring and dangerous. Using the knowledge from the derelict vessel and the decoded transmissions, they identified the alien faction's main communication hub. Hidden within a cluster of asteroids near a neutral zone and area no one had dared to investigate before. The hub was the source of the manipulation, the heart of the campaign to destabilize the systems. Mark led a small, agile fleet, including ships from multiple allied species, to approach the cluster in secret. The mission required precision, courage, and trust among the crew. Alara's leadership, forged through loss and determination, inspired the team to push beyond fear. As they closed in, the alien faction launched defenses stealth drones, energy barriers, and electronic attacks aimed at breaking their formation and cutting off their communications. It was a fierce test, and many times the fleet's survival seemed uncertain, but human ingenuity shone through. Engineers adapted technology on the fly, creating new ways to counter the electronic warfare, while diplomats on board kept morale high and reminded everyone of what was at stake. They knew that failure would mean the collapse of the fragile peace and the spread of chaos throughout the galaxy. After hours of intense battle and careful navigation, the fleet reached the communication hub. Mark and Alara led a boarding team to infiltrate the complex. Inside, the alien faction's technology was unlike anything seen before alive, adaptive and resistant to conventional tactics. The boarding team worked quickly, disabling systems and uncovering files that detailed plans to ignite conflicts. On multiple fronts, Lara's steady focus kept the team moving through corridors that seemed designed to confuse and trap intruders. Meanwhile, Mark coordinated with the fleet outside to prevent reinforcements from arriving. The tension was high, with danger lurking in every shadow and the weight of countless lives depending on their success. When they finally reached the central control room, they broadcast the evidence gathered directly to every station and government. Within communication range, the truth spilled out like a beacon, exposing the alien faction's conspiracy and revealing the agents, who had been manipulating events from within. Panic and disbelief rippled through the galaxy, but also a renewed sense of unity. The alien faction's hold began to crumble as its plans were laid bare. The tide had turned, not through overwhelming force, but because different species and cultures chose to trust each other and face the darkness together. Alara stood beside Mark, their partnership now a symbol of hope and resilience. What had once been called madness was now recognized as courage and insight. The loss of her husband was honored as a sacrifice that sparked change and awakened the galaxy to a new reality. As the mission concluded, peace talks resumed with a new spirit of cooperation, and alliances that once seemed fragile grew stronger. Humanity's role in the cosmos was no longer uncertain or questioned. It was clear that their unique ability to listen, adapt, and connect made them vital to the future of interstellar peace. Mark and Alara knew that challenges would continue and that threats might rise again, but they faced this new era with confidence and hope. The story of the Mad Widow was no longer a tale of sorrow, but a testament to the power of belief and the importance of hearing voices others ignore. In the vastness of space, where silence often hides the greatest dangers, sometimes it is the ones labeled mad who see the clearest, and humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun.